actually a somewhat normal practice in that culture. Or maybe she had been enslaved. During that time, the Roman oppression was severe in Israel. And so she is unprotected and really in a position of slavery when we meet her in the book of Luke. And, there's a time where Jesus is going to Simon's house to have dinner. And another thing to understand about the culture at this time is that when there is something like a noble person, Jesus, considered to be a very important teacher to some, rabbi, to some, they already know he's the Messiah. And there has been, his reputation has preceded him. He has been healing people, and word has traveled. So I don't know the moment in time when this woman heard of Jesus. I think it very well could have been before this moment at Simon's house that we're about to read about. But she knew that Jesus was someone that could offer her something that no one else could. There was something inside her that was starting to build up. And I want to say hope. Hope that she didn't have to be so full of shame and guilt, that she could actually have a future. So when Jesus came to Simon's house, and at that time, if somebody important was coming to a home, the custom was to have the dinner in the courtyard. And the reason they would do it in the courtyard is a couple of different reasons. The host got some bragging rights. Everyone, as they walked by, could look over and see, oh, look at Simon. He's hanging out with Jesus. And it was something that, I'm sure that was Simon's motivation. But then it was also, there was a compassion to it, that people that maybe weren't in a position to have these types of conversations could get close enough that they could listen and they could hear. Right? This is before a time of the 24-hour news cycle. So getting information was valuable. And so people would gather around the courtyard, and as long as they didn't interrupt, it was fine to get close enough that you could eavesdrop. And I believe that that's the position that this woman was in Luke chapter 7. Can we go ahead and bring up, oh, you do have it up. All right. I'm going to turn around so I can see it, because, or Chris, can you put it up on the monitor here? But I'll go ahead and read. Luke chapter 7, verse 36. When one of the Pharisees invited Jesus to have dinner with him, he went to the Pharisee's house and reclined at the table. A woman in that town who lived a sinful life learned that Jesus was eating at the Pharisee's house. So she came there with an alabaster jar of perfume. I want to point that out. She came with the alabaster jar of perfume. I would reckon that was probably the most valuable thing she had. And as she stood behind him at his feet weeping, she began to wet his feet with her tears. And then she wiped them with her hair, and she kissed them and poured perfume on them. When the Pharisee who had invited him saw this, he said to himself, if this man were a prophet, he would know who is touching him and what kind of woman she is, that she is a sinner. Jesus answered him, Simon, I have something to tell you. Tell me, teacher, he said. 2 people owed money to a certain moneylender. One owed him 500 denarii and the other 50. Neither of them had the money to pay him back, so he forgave the debts of both. Now which of them will love him more? Simon replied, I suppose the one who had the bigger debt forgiven. You have judged correctly, Jesus said. Then he turned toward the woman and said to Simon, do you see